TY BCom, SEM 5, subject economic. Today's my topic is objectives of economic planning in India. I explain objectives of economic planning in India with the help of some points. First point is economic development. It is obvious that the first main objective of economic planning in India is to achieve rapid economic development and thereby ensure significant and continuous increase in national income and per capita income. It is only through accelerating economic growth rate the economic backwardness can be removed and a noticeable improvement in the living standards of the people can be brought about. Economic development has always remained in focus because planners believed that the gains of economic development would downward and poverty, inequality and unemployment would get reduced automatically. While designing the allocation of resources in the economy, planner had always in mind the target of economic development. The performance of every 5-year plan has been evaluated on the basis of its performance on the growth front. High priority to rapid growth is justified when we view it in the context of long period of stagnation under the British rule on account to massive drain of wealth from India. In this period, while the European countries developed, India suffered underdevelopment. To achieve higher rate of economic growth within the democratic framework of the country has been the most important objective of economic planning in India. Second point is self-belief. Self-belief has also been one of the basic objectives of economic planning in India. Self-faith does not mean self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency implies a situation in which a country itself produces all those goods and services which it needs. It is economically independent of other countries in the world. It has a closed economy. During 1950 to 1991, self-faith was interpreted to mean self-sufficiency. India implemented the policy of import substitution very forcefully. Under this policy, India began to produce those goods which can serve as substitutes for import goods. To a good extent, import substitution policy was successful. In case of goods such as food grains and some other consumption goods, we are totally independent of imports at present, and in some other cases, for example, tanks, atomic instruments, aeroplanes, engineering goods and modern electronics, import all are reduced to a negligible level as these goods are now produced on a large scale domestically. Self-belief, on the other hand, implies a situation in which a country is capable to sustain economic growth at a higher rate with the help of its own resources. It need not depend on foreign aid. It enjoys economic freedom in that sense. India does import some capital goods and modern technology necessary for economic growth, but it pays import bill out of its export earnings. It follows that self-faith does not create a closed economy. The philosophy of self-faith is against foreign aid. It is not against foreign trade. In first plan, India was dependent on foreign countries in three respects. First one is India is agriculture country, India had to import food grains in large quantities for other countries because domestic output was inadequate. Second one is capital goods such as plant, machinery and transport equipment had to be obtained from abroad because in the Indian economy basic and heavy industries were non-existent. Third one is foreign aid had become essential because the rate of domestic saving in India was too low. India was heavily dependent on other countries and sometimes she was exploited economically and sometimes she was pressurized politically. This was the reason why India adopted the objectives of self-belief since the beginning of the third plan. Next point is unemployment. The objective of full employment has been accepted by the Indian planner because unemployment and underemployment are from among the important cases of poverty in India. In the beginning, Indian planner believed the unemployment and underemployment will get reduced automatically with economic growth. The increase in national product during the process of economic growth, the supply of resources complementary to labor increase and therefore the level of employment goes up. Increase in employment, increase in employment, people's income increase and therefore poverty gets reduced. The belief The belief proved wrong. In fact, unemployment has increased in economic growth. This is why some special programs of employment have been implemented in rural areas. Since the beginning of the fifth plan, the objective of planning is to bring about substantial increase in the employment opportunities to ensure optimum utilization of available manpower. India, where labor is in abundance, planning must aim at making the maximum use of available human resources and achieve the level of full employment in the economy. Next point is economic inequality. In India, the objective of planning should also be to bring about substantial reduction in the inequalities of income and wealth as also to reduce concentration of economic power. In other words, the benefits of economic development must be distributed in a more equitable manner amongst different sections of the society. This will help us to achieve the goal of economic and social justice. The objective of economic equality has been accorded top priority since the beginning of the second plan. The objective is inequality of income and wealth among the individuals should be reduced as far as possible. Regional inequality must also be reduced because in India inequality prevails among the regions and states. Also some states like Gujarat, Maharashtra, Punjab and Haryana are economically more progressive than some other states like Madhya Pradesh, Orissa, Bihar, etc. Special measures are devised to accelerate economic growth in backward and less progressive regions in the country. The planner visualized the establishment of a socialist society in which everyone would have equal opportunities in the matter of education, public health, employment, drinking water, occupation, and sanitation. Income and wealth would be distributed equally and there would be no exploitation of men by men. The first three plans talked of the establishment of socialist pattern of society, while the fourth plan talked about the establishment of a social and economic democracy. This is because in India, extreme inequalities have their roots in traditional social structure and semi-feudal relation of production in villages. Next point is poverty. Planners believe that poverty automatically gets reduced with economic growth did not accord with the fact as during the 1950 to 1970 poverty in India increased in spite of economic growth. It was in the fifth plan, therefore, that the objective of poverty eradication was accepted as a separate objective. Some special schemes of poverty eradication were enforced on a priority basis. Under the policy of economic liberalization introduced in India since 1991, it is again emphasized that economic growth is a precondition of poverty eradication. This means that the objective economic growth is more important than the objective of poverty eradication. Even under this policy, the success of economic planning is measured in terms of its impact on poverty. We can say without hesitation that even today the objective of poverty eradication is as important as it was before. The next point is modernization. Indian planners have always recognized the role of science and technology in economic development. It was in the sixth plan that the objective of modernization was mentioned. It stated that the terms modernization connotes a variety of structural and institutional changes in the framework of economic activity such that they can transform a feudal and colonial economy into a progressive and independent economy. The structural changes, there has to be a shift in the composition of production so that industries contribute a larger proportion to national income as compared to agriculture. There should be a diversified economy which produce a large variety of goods as in the developed countries. This requires establishment of new industries in the field of engineering, petroleum and chemicals. Advancement of technology is necessary to upgrade the quality of products, reduce cost and make economy efficient. The institutional changes envisaged by the planner, development of public sector industries to provide infrastructure and social services, setting up of financial institution and modern banks to provide long-term, medium-term and short-term loans, enforcing land reforms to place actual tiller at the center stage of agriculture and improving human factor through the provision of research, training and extension services. In the seventh plan, the concept of modernization has been narrowed down. Modernization refers to technological advances in agriculture, industries, and services so that efficiency is improved and economic growth is accelerated. They all point. They are defined to objectives of economic planning. In our planning, we are using to the all objects and we are getting to the some good result and some not getting a good result. Our next topic is Niti Ayog. It means our next question is Niti Ayog. Niti Ayog. Fundamental change has taken place in the policy making framework in the Indian economy. The Prime Minister of India has replaced the Planning Commission by a new body, namely Niti Ayog. The Niti stands for National Institution for Transforming India. It means Niti, it is a short form. Their full form is National Institution for Transforming India. This is the full form, and Niti, this is the short form, NITI. The Planning Commission was set up in 1950 by executive decision of the Union Cabinet and the Sum. Procedure was adopted by the Planning Commission and to replace it by the Niti Ayog on 1st January 2015. The Planning Commission was initially entrusted with the task of preparing development plans for the entire economy. Over time, it took up the responsibility of devolution of development grants to the states in the name of allocating funds for the central plan schemes, centrally sponsored schemes and grant in aid of state plan schemes. It finally overshadowed the function of Finance Commission. The Planning Commission could not resist the political interferences in its functioning. The functioning became objectionable when the states ruled by parties other than the one ruling at the center felt that their development needs were being ignored. To rectify this anomaly, it became necessary to create a new policy making institution which shall function in consultation with state for formulate development policies for them and to coordinate development programs with interstate dimension. Sukhmoy Chakraborty has identified three basic reasons for the failure of Planning Commission. The first one is planning authorities are inefficient in gathering the relevant information. Second point is they respond with considerable time lag when the economic situation change. The third one is agencies through with which planning authorities were supposed to implement plan had little or no capacity to do it. When the Niti Ayog was established on January 1st, 2015, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley stated The 65-year-old Planning Commission had become an unnecessary organization. It was relevant in a command economy structure, but not any longer. India is a diversified country and its states are in different phases of economic development along with their own strengths and weaknesses. In this context, a one size fits all approach to economic planning is absolute. It cannot make India a competitive economy in today's global economy. Objectives of Niti Ayog. I explain some objectives of Niti Ayog. To evolve a shared vision of national development priorities, sectors, and strategies with the active involvement of states in the light of national objectives. To foster cooperative federalism through a structural support initiatives and anchor mechanism with the states on a continuous basis, recognizing that strong states make a strong nation. To develop mechanism to formulate credible plan at the village level and aggregate this plan progressively at the higher level of government. To ensure that the interests of national security are incorrupted in economic strategy and policy. To pay special attention to the sanction of our society that may be at the risk of not benefiting adequately from economic progress. To design strategic and long-term policy and program frameworks and initiatives and monitor their progress and efficiency. The lesson learned through monitoring and feedback will be used for making innovative improvements, including course corrections. To focus on technology upgradation and capacity building for implementation of programs and initiatives. To offer a platform for resolution of intersectoral and interdepartmental issues in order to accelerate the implementation of the development agenda. To create a knowledge, innovation and entrepreneurial support system through a collaborative community of national and international experts, practitioners and other partners. To undertake other activities as may be necessary in order to further the execution of the national development agenda and the objectives mentioned above. Some future plannings of Niti Ayog. The heading is Future Planning of Niti Ayog. Indian economy till date is defined as mixed economy in which there is a coexistence of public and private sector. Public sector is primarily guided by the objective of social welfare. The public sector undertaking play an important role in implementing government's policies. In the age of liberalization, privatization and globalization, the role of public sector has been shrinking while the role of domestic and foreign private cooperate is expanding. The public-private partnership, it means PPP model, is emerging as a role for future development of infrastructure. Under this circumstance, what worries is the fact that whether expectation from Niti Ayog will get fulfilled, the aspiration of the people would be met. The major challenge before the government would be how the objective of all inclusive development could be achieved. With the termination of the 12th five-year plan in March 2017, the policy of five-year plan has been officially since the Niti Ayog is to approve the government's new policy document, namely 3-year action plan 2017 to 2020. It will also come out with a 15-year vision document and a 7-year strategy paper. The action plan is aimed at accelerating economic growth and making it more inclusive by focusing on employment generation. The action plan is likely to take into account the impact of demonetization, especially on informal sector. The 3-year action plan will not contain revenue projection for 2017-18, though it will have detail for 2018-19 and 2019-20. The 15-year vision document will guide the government's development works till 2030. The vision document will be reviewed every 3 years with the first appraisal in 2019-20. The plan is to align it with Finance Commission recommendations. Niti Ayog having to the some challenges. The Niti Ayog aims to enable India to better face complex challenges. India's demographic dividend and realization of the potential of the youth, men and women, through education, skill development, elimination of gender-based and employment, eliminations of poverty and the chance for every Indian to live a life of dignity and self-respect, redressal of inequalities based on gender-based, caste and economic disparities, integrate villages institutionally into the development process, policy support to more than 50 million small businesses which are a major source of employment creation, safeguarding our environmental and ecological assets. The Niti Ayog will now recommend policies. Their implementation will be up to the governments. Unlike the Planning Commission, the Niti Ayog does not have power of allocating central funds to states. This will now be done by the finance central funds to states. This will now be done by the finance ministry. By giving states more control, the Niti Ayog will prevent ivory tower policy making and gives it a greater grassroots flavor. Several states have called for greater devolution of funds and are against the arbitrary cuts in the centrally sponsored scheme. In 2017, we are changing to our Planning Commission to Niti Ayog. We are changing to the some schemes in a Planning Commission, and we are changing to their name also, Planning Commission to Niti Ayog. In 2017, 1st January 2017, 1st January 2015, we are implement to Niti Ayog in India.